Even the greatest minds make mistakes. But what if those mistakes are born from an obsession so profound, it blinds them to logic? Enter Lex Luthor, the iconic arch-nemesis of Superman. A man whose strategic brilliance is matched only by his consuming obsession with the Man of Steel. It's this very obsession that ironically becomes Luthor's fatal flaw, leading him to commit blunder after blunder when it comes to Kryptonite, the one substance that could actually defeat Superman. From ignoring scientific advice to straight-up lying to himself, Luthor's Kryptonite blunders are not just comical side plots in the Superman canon, but offer us a chilling glimpse into the dark side of genius. A cautionary tale that reminds us that even the brightest minds are vulnerable to the pitfalls of tunnel vision and obsession. Today, we delve deep into the psyche of one of fiction's most iconic villains, exposing the shocking ways in which Lex Luthor consistently messes up the one thing that could end Superman once and for all. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. I'm your host, and you can find me on social media. Here we explore the multi-layered narratives that have captivated audiences for years. Today we dive into the mind of the infamous Lex Luthor, dissecting his baffling Kryptonite blunders that have left fans scratching their heads and wondering why the most brilliant mind in the DC universe can seem to get it right when it comes to Superman's Kryptonite. Let's jump into it. In the grand cosmic chess match between Superman and Lex Luthor, Kryptonite is the ultimate queen. Wielding its power means victory. Yet, time and again, Luthor falters, not through lack of intelligence, but through his all-consuming obsession with his arch-nemesis. So what exactly are these baffling blunders, and how do they reveal the darker aspects of Luthor's character? To understand Lex Luthor's Kryptonite blunders, we must first acknowledge his unique position in the DC universe. Unlike many of Superman's other foes, Luthor is not a superpowered being, but rather a brilliant strategist and businessman. He is the CEO of LexCorp, a technological powerhouse that rivals even that of Wayne Enterprises. His intellect, business acumen, and sheer willpower have allowed him to carve out a vast fortune and influence, making him one of the most powerful humans on the planet. However, Luthor's brilliance becomes a double-edged sword when it comes to Kryptonite. Time and again, his obsession with Superman leads him to make baffling decisions that undermine his own goals. One of Luthor's most glaring Kryptonite blunders is his consistent underestimation of Superman's powers and resolve. In countless confrontations, Luthor has devised plans that rely on exploiting Kryptonite, only to be thwarted by Superman's strength, speed, and unwavering moral compass. Perhaps the most iconic example of this is in the 1978 Superman movie, where Luthor uses Kryptonite to lure Superman into a trap. Despite knowing full well that Kryptonite weakens Superman, Luthor still underestimates the Man of Steel's ability to overcome this weakness. This highlights a key aspect of Luthor's character, his inability to truly comprehend or respect his nemesis. He sees Superman as nothing more than an obstacle to be removed, failing to grasp the complexities that make Superman who he is. Another one of Luthor's puzzling Kryptonite blunders is his tendency to hold on to Kryptonite for too long. In several storylines, Luthor has been known to hoard large quantities of Kryptonite, believing that more is always better. He sees Kryptonite as a means to ensure his dominance, never wanting to be caught off guard. However, this very strategy often backfires as Luthor becomes a sitting duck, allowing Superman to trace the source of the Kryptonite back to LexCorp and confront him. Furthermore, holding on to Kryptonite for too long exposes Luthor to its harmful effects, weakening him and hindering his strategic thinking. This Kryptonite blunder reveals a critical aspect of Luthor's psyche, his inability to adapt and improvise. A brilliant strategist indeed, Luthor's plans are often airtight, but when faced with unforeseen circumstances, he falters. For instance, in the Death of Superman storyline, Luthor's plan to use Doomsday to defeat Superman succeeds, but he fails to anticipate the emergence of Superboy, the clone of Superman. Faced with this unexpected development, Luthor's strategic brilliance seems to desert him, and he resorts to desperate measures that ultimately backfire. His inability to think on his feet and adapt to changing circumstances proves to be his downfall, highlighting a fatal flaw in his otherwise brilliant persona. Now, let's turn our attention to a more insidious aspect of Luthor's Kryptonite blunders, his propensity for outright lying to himself. In some narratives, Luthor has convinced himself that he can control Kryptonite's negative effects, all because he believes himself to be smarter than the scientific understanding of his time. He convinces himself that he can safely handle Kryptonite, only to be met with its debilitating consequences. This aspect of Luthor's Kryptonite blunders delves into the darker recesses of his psyche, exposing his hubris and self-deception. His belief that he is somehow exempt from the laws that govern Kryptonite showcases a dangerous level of arrogance and self-importance. Luthor convinces himself that he is smarter than science, only to be brought low by his own hubris. But let's shift our focus to a particularly jarring instance of Luthor's Kryptonite blunders in Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman. In this story, Luthor's obsession with defeating Superman leads him to inject himself with kryptonite, hoping to gain superpowers by mimicking Superman's biological makeup. However, this reckless experiment has unintended consequences, transforming Luthor into a monstrous version of Superman with green skin and a white streak of kryptonite running through his hair. Instead of gaining superpowers, Luthor becomes a grotesque mockery of Superman, showcasing the lengths to which his obsession can drive him. And let's not forget Lex Luthor's most baffling kryptonite blunder of all, his tendency to monologue. In countless confrontations with Superman, Luthor has been known to engage in lengthy monologues explaining his elaborate schemes and motivations. While such monologues might serve as a clever plot device for writers, they make little sense from Luthor's perspective. During these monologues, Luthor not only reveals his plans, but also expresses personal details that could be used against him. It's as if he takes great pleasure in toasting his own demise. This tendency to monologue reveals a disturbing aspect of Luthor's psychology, his apparent desire for self-destruction. As Luthor delivers his grand pronouncements, he leaves himself wide open to attack, giving Superman the upper hand. Time and again, Luthor has fallen victim to this kryptonite blunder, only adding to his long list of strategic missteps. Analyzing Luthor's kryptonite blunders allows us to gain a deeper understanding of his character, motives, and the intricacies of his relationship with Superman. On the surface, Luthor's repeated failures seem to make him appear incompetent. However, upon closer examination, they reveal a more complex picture. Luthor's brilliance is undeniable, but his kryptonite blunders expose the darker aspects of his genius, demonstrating that even the brightest minds are susceptible to the pitfalls of obsession and self-deception. Moreover, exploring Luthor's kryptonite blunders provides a fresh perspective on the Superman mythos. It challenges the traditional view of Superman as an invincible symbol of hope, reminding us that even the Man of Steel has weaknesses. By examining Luthor's strategies and their consequences, we gain a deeper appreciation for the threats Superman faces and the complexities of his heroic journey. So what is the ultimate takeaway from deciphering Lex Luthor's kryptonite blunders? As we conclude our exploration of Lex Luthor's kryptonite blunders, we are left with more questions than answers. The brilliance of this iconic villain is undeniable, yet his repeated missteps when it comes to kryptonite leave us scratching our heads in disbelief. Perhaps the most important lesson we learn from Luthor's blunders is that even the most brilliant minds are not immune to the pitfalls of obsession. Luthor's all-consuming desire to defeat Superman clouds his judgment, leading him to make baffling decisions that undermine his own goals. His tendency to underestimate Superman's powers, hold on to kryptonite for too long, lie to himself about its effects, and monologue during confrontations are all symptoms of his obsession getting the better of him. These traits make him not just a formidable villain, but a tragically flawed character whose brilliance is ultimately undone by his own demons. But here's the ultimate twist. Perhaps Lex Luthor's kryptonite blunders are not mistakes at all, but a brilliant strategy in disguise. After all, by continuously failing to defeat Superman with kryptonite, Luthor keeps Superman close, ensuring that he remains a constant presence in his life. Maybe it's not about defeating Superman, but keeping him around as a means of validation. This idea turns their relationship on its head, suggesting that there may be more to Luthor's Kryptonite blunders than meets the eye. As we wrap up our discussion of Lex Luthor's Kryptonite blunders, we are left with a sense of awe and disbelief. A strategic mastermind who consistently messes up the one thing that could defeat Superman. Only in the world of comics, right? Well, maybe not. Lex Luthor's Kryptonite blunders aren't just a fun quirk of the Superman canon, but a fascinating study in human psychology, obsession, the darker aspects of genius, and the lengths to which one man will go to defeat his nemesis. Whether we're talking about the brilliant but flawed protagonist struggling with addiction or the obsessive villain whose brilliance is undone by his own demons, these stories remind us that the greatest battles are often fought within, and the most compelling heroes and villains are the ones who show us both the light and dark sides of humanity. Thank you for joining me today, Nerd Squad, on this exploration of Lex Luthor's Kryptonite blunders. What are your thoughts on today's topic? Drop your comments down below. And while you're at it, hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-bending content. Your engagement fuels our journey. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep being awesome.